I don't know why, like, every time I start streaming, it decides to make it unlisted. Visibility is public. Okay, there we go. It should be public now. There it is. Alright, I will, post that I am streaming. Okay. Well, today it says I have an excellent connection. Here's again. Actually, let's pull OBS to the top so I can see. Alright. It says I have an excellent connection, so I'm streaming at 30 frames per second today instead of 60. See if that helps. I need to make it like save the mouse sensitivity between gameplay sessions. That was, one of those things that's obviously on the list of things to do, but didn't seem high priority. But now that I'm like actually playing the game in multiple sessions, I'm like, this should have been a higher priority because it's annoying me every time. All right, so we're approaching 10 hours and over 60,000 buttons. Yeah. Making good progress, I think. Yeah. So, if you were just randomly clicking on this video, this is 1 million buttons. It is a game where there are 1 million buttons, and one button is correct. The correct button is randomly chosen every time you play, and there are no hints. So you just do this until you find the button. I have already found the button in this playthrough, but I am testing the game to make sure every button so far is clickable. I say so far because there aren't 1 million buttons in the game yet. There are about 200,000 buttons in the game, which is still a lot of buttons, but only 20% of the complete game. I mean, you saw over there, I'm at like 10 hours and only 60,000 buttons, so about on track for like the 30-ish, 30-something hour prediction I made when I kind of started doing this. It's actually been surprisingly consistent, surprisingly close to my estimate of 100 buttons a minute. So I just made that rough estimate like after clicking 1,000 buttons early on. Like, this is about how fast it takes me to click buttons. And that has remained consistent. And if you do, don't feel like doing the math yourself, that means that once I get actually 1,000,000 buttons in here, we're looking at over 160 hours to click all of them at my pace. Anyway, Metroid Prime 4 comes out next week. That is wild. It definitely felt like that game might never come out at some point. Like, it had been through development hell for so long. We hadn't heard about it. Like, we got the logo. They definitely announced it prematurely. It was definitely a case of, like, we need the Switch to look good, so we're gonna announce a bunch of, like, fan favorite games. And I don't think it was actually properly in development yet. Which is why we just got a logo way back in 2017. And I think that is Metroid Prime 4 and Bayonetta 3 are, both cases of games that were announced just prematurely. And then kept getting pushed back and kind of made Nintendo look a little bad. And I think that's why, like, not those games specifically, but, like, that's part of the reason why Nintendo's gotten into this habit of, like, not announcing games until they're pretty close to coming out. So, like, they don't go, oh, here's our 2026, 2027, 2028 lineup. Because they don't want to have this game that's kind of in the works, that is a fan favorite, that they can't cancel because they've announced it, but also it's not working out, and I don't know, it just kind of is a rough position for them to be in, so they just avoid having to deal with that by not announcing games until they're basically done. But it is exciting. Been waiting for this game. I mean, they announced it 8 years ago, so 8 years. But even longer than that, like, after the Prime trilogy, it always felt like, yeah, they're eventually going to come back to this. Maybe not necessarily as a Metroid Prime. I actually always kind of predicted it wouldn't be called Metroid Prime 4. It would probably be called, like, a new subtitle, but that they would build off the Prime foundation. Like, we were gonna get a new first-person Metroid game eventually. It just might take a while. So it was cool when they did announce it, and it was Prime. I mean, the other thing is when they announced Federation Force, like, everyone was so mad about that, and I felt, like, my perception on that announcement was, oh, this is good, because they are still mindful of the Metroid Prime brand. They are still thinking about this. They haven't just put it in the past. In fact, they think it's important enough to give it a spin-off. And this game isn't the Metroid Prime game that, we all wanted, but it was a good indication that there was probably going to be something else coming in the future, something bigger. So yeah. And that game turned out, I don't know. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It was just kind of there. It feels like a missed opportunity to me, Federation Force, because they actually built a solid foundation for like a Metroid Prime type game on the 3DS. I like the way that game plays. It feels like a Metroid Prime game, but it's just kind of, because it's structured with this like mission-based structure and designed for co-op, that, you know, kind of ruins the game for me, because I don't want to play the game in co-op. Like, I can imagine a version of that game where they just kind of stitch together all the levels to so I gotta get my wrist pad here ready. So I don't hurt my mouse on, hurt my wrist on the desk. Like, there were moments in that game where I was like, oh, this actually feels kind of Metroid Prime. Like, there were missions where it started out with you kind of walking around and exploring and, you know, doing some light platforming and some light puzzling, and it's, I don't know, it's like, this actually feels like a Metroid Prime kind of experience. And then it gets into the less fun, like, co-op stuff, and especially playing the game in single player and trying to do stuff that is designed for, like, co-op multitasking. That got kind of annoying. And there was, like, one boss, I remember, where, like, it has an attack that if it hits you, it just knocks you out in one hit. It doesn't even do damage, it just knocks you out. And in multiplayer, you know, your friends can come over and, like, revive you. But in single player, it's just like, okay, if you get hit by that attack, it's over. Like, that is, I think, the only Metroid game I never beat. But from what I played, it was like, it's okay. It is not offensively bad. It just feels like a missed opportunity. And, like, the chibi style is so weird. I don't know why they went with that when, like, Hunters worked fine on the DS. But anyway, Metroid Prime 4 is coming out. And, you know, after such a long wait. It's funny how, like, it feels like people just keep getting mad about that game. Like every time something new is revealed, there's something else for people to be mad about. At first it was revealed and it was like, oh, it doesn't look like it's doing anything new, it's just it's just another Metroid Prime game. And, like, I definitely felt that way too when they first revealed it. It's like, it's weird that the thing they're highlighting here is Samus has psychic powers she can use to open doors. It's like, oh, okay. Maybe that's a neat power-up, maybe they'll use it in an interesting way, but that is a kind of weird way to, weird thing to focus on in, like, the reveal. But I wasn't mad, I was just like, let's see what they're cooking. But some people seem kind of upset about it. And then when we finally got more, it was like Samus has a motorcycle. And I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. So that's the gimmick of this game, is Samus has a motorcycle. And I thought that was neat. Like, I can't imagine, you know, in the game, the motorcycle will be, like, a thing you get upgrades for as you progress. Like, this is a thing that they do in, I'm trying to think if they did it in Prime 1 and 2, but they really did it in Prime 3, where they had, like, different not upgrade paths, but like, you know, all of Samus's equipment had different upgrades. I guess they did it in Prime 1 and 2, where it would be like, you have the Morph Ball, and then the Morph Ball has its upgrades. And then you have the beams, and the beams have their upgrades. And you have the missiles, and the missiles have their upgrades. And then in Prime 3, it was like you have the ship, and the ship has its upgrades. And you have the grapple beam, and the grapple beam has its upgrades. And so, you know, that's... I can definitely imagine that the motorcycle will have upgrades. So I am interested in seeing how it's upgraded. But that was another thing that people got upset about. It was like, oh no, they're turning it into a generic open world game. Look at this big empty open world. This, I don't know, people got real negative about that, and I was just, I don't know, it's so weird to me. It's weird to me to see people just see a little clip of something that is coming up and just like immediately get really negative about it. This happens a lot, and people just like want to be negative about stuff, it feels like. And I'm not saying if something kind of isn't looking great, you gotta get real psyched for it anyway. Because that's the other thing, is like people bring up that Red Letter Media clip of like, don't just think, consume. It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying, but I am saying let them cook. Because you've been wrong. The fans have been wrong enough times. I can remember enough times where people like saw something that was revealed and said, I don't like that, it's going to be bad, and then it turned out to kind of be great. Like Metroid is a great example of that. When Metroid Prime was revealed, there was a considerable amount of skepticism about it being a first-person game developed by a Western studio. And, you know, this like idea of like, can a first-person shooter capture the essence of Metroid? And I remember a lot of discourse like, oh, well, you know, if it doesn't, at least we'll have a 2D game by the original team, or not the original team, but it had Sakamoto, it had, I don't know how much of the original team was on Fusion, but it was, you know, developed by, like, some of the talent behind the original games. And, yeah, there's this thought of, like, you know, at least that one, we're certain will capture the essence of Super Metroid. And it's funny, because, like, when they came out, it kind of the opposite happened. You know, everyone loved Metroid Prime. Like, oh, it perfectly captured the essence of Super Metroid in 3D. And people were real down on Fusion, because it was, like, much more linear and scripted. There was no sequence breaking. Which is interesting today because people really love Fusion. So it's another one of those cases where like something was kind of unpopular when it came out. It was kind of the black sheep of the franchise when it came out, but then I think people over time came to appreciate it for what it was. And also, you know, if you get into the Metroid series after Fusion is already out, like, Fusion is just part of the series to you. So, like, younger players who just know that, oh yeah, Fusion is just part of the Metroid series, didn't go in with this expectation of what Metroid should be. And just kind of appreciated it for what it was. But yeah, so people were kind of down on the open world stuff when that was revealed. People were kind of, I don't know, and then like last week, I guess, or so, recently, they released some footage, and I have been avoiding as much footage as I can because I want to go in as blind as I can. Like I saw the motorcycle and I was like, okay, yeah, that's all I need to see. That looks great. So I haven't watched like the new stuff. I have seen people getting really mad that apparently there's an annoying NPC who talks too much. But again, I'm like, I don't know, man. Let him cook. Like, I will absolutely join in with the complaints. Like, if I play the game and it does indeed turn out that this guy is as annoying as he seems. Because I cannot stand annoying characters telling me what to do. But, like, my prediction, based on what I've seen, is that he is not going to be like a partner character with you through the entire game. He's going to be an annoying comic relief character at the beginning, and then Sylux is going to kill him to motivate Samus. Like, I mean, that's not why Sylux is going to kill him, but like, my read on this character is he probably has a similar role as the other hunters in Metroid Prime 3. Like Metroid Prime 3 is what I keep coming back to. Is like, that game starts out with this big, like, linear, very Halo-inspired opening. But then once you get past that opening, it becomes a more, mostly more traditional Metroid experience. I would say it is less linear than Fusion, but it isn't, like, quite completely open. There's definitely a trajectory across the 3 Prime games of, you know, Prime 1 is very open. Prime 2 gets a bit more linear, that kind of separates the world into three biomes that you go to kind of. You do one, and then you go to the next, and then you go to the third, and there's a little bit of backtracking, but not a ton. So kind of my prediction for Metroid Prime 4 is that we'll get something similar. We're going to have like an opening with some NPCs, some named NPCs, and they will probably die or get corrupted, and so I don't think they're gonna like do the exact same thing again. But I don't think they're gonna be around for the whole game. Like, I think at some point the game is gonna take off the leash and Samus is gonna go do her own thing. The other aspect is the complaint about Marvel humor. And now I haven't seen what kind of jokes this character is involved with, but that is a term that has just gotten, like, annoyingly overused because they just... It seems like it just means any sort of comic relief. I see immediately called Marvel humor. I think the two of the big ones that are like, he's right behind me, isn't he? Or, well, that just happened. And, like, the thing about both of those is that, as far as I can remember, neither of those jokes have happened in a Marvel movie. But it's definitely, I don't know, it's like anytime there is a joke in something that people feel should be serious, especially like a cheesy joke, there's this, okay, that's not good. Oh wait, no, that is moving. Okay. Alright, I worried for a second maybe that's not moving and you won't be able to get the ones that are underneath. But like, comic relief has been a thing in movies for a very long time. Like, here's a good example is, okay, Predator Badlands came out and there are... most people seem to have really liked it. So it is a minority who's complaining about this, but I have seen a couple of people saying, oh, they Disney-fied it and, you know, gave it the Marvel humor. But like, if you watch the original Predator, there's a moment where Arnold, like, skewers a guy with a machete, throws the machete at him, it goes through him, pins him to the wall, and Arnold says, stick around, and leaves, and it's like, like, that was a whole thing in the 80s, these very just dumb one-liners after the action hero kills the bad guy. Like, it was very famously a thing that was parodied a lot, and was, you know, criticized at the time. And I don't think, you know, it's something that shouldn't be criticized. I think there are valid criticisms to that, because they could be very silly and very dumb jokes that took you out of the moment. But you know, this concept of silly, dumb jokes in serious action movies isn't a Marvel thing. It's just been a thing, and it's weird that people have pinned it directly on Marvel and gotten real mad about it. Because, like, in the 80s, we had the action heroes giving dumb one-liners. In the 90s, we had the buddy comedies where the serious, straight-laced cop was partnered with the goofy cop. And, like, even, like, movies that are like, oh, this is a great, serious, gritty movie. One I always think about is in Batman Begins, there's a line where, you know, Gordon sees the Batmobile. He goes, "Oh, I gotta get me one of those." I always kind of hated that line. That just felt like such a, I don't know, a joke. I feel towards that line the way that so many people feel towards this supposed, like, Marvel humor. And I will, you know, I will also totally agree that there are definitely jokes, like, in the Marvel movies that don't land. The one that comes to mind is in the first Avengers, where Iron Man kind of, in the final battle, Iron Man gets the attention of a bunch of aliens and says, "Oh, I'm taking the party to you," and comes around a corner, and, you know, there's one of the giant metal squid things chasing after him. And then Black Widow says, I don't see how that's a party. Hate that line. that is the most Whedon-y, annoying Whedon quippy joke in any of those movies, probably. And especially because it, like, precedes, like, the Avengers moment, where Hulk shows up and says, "I'm always angry," punches the thing, and it goes over, and it does the, like, spin around thing. Yeah, I'm not saying that, like, there aren't bad Marvel jokes, but I am saying it is weird that people have attributed this specifically to Marvel, when, like, bad comic relief has just always been a thing. Like another thing in, like, 80s stuff, especially, is, like, you always had, like, the stupid mascot, like a stupid animal that was just there for comic relief that everyone hated. It was, you know, the Jar Jar Binks, but that was in 1999. But that was just, like, in every movie in the 80s. Not every movie, but, like, every, like, sci-fi fantasy type movie. I don't know. Bad jokes have always been around, and I absolutely agree that this, like, there's a specific type of bad jokes, a specific trend of people who really want to be Joss Whedon, or you know, not necessarily be Joss Whedon, but do that same kind of quippy humor that he does. And here's the thing: is that like, those kinds of people trying to emulate, you know, the Whedon style, like, they have been around forever. Not forever, obviously, but for a very long time. Like, on message boards in the 2000s, I remember reading I don't know, people trying to write in that Whedon-esque style, and just, yeah, it is grating when it's done poorly. But the way, I don't know, people have been calling basically any comic relief Marvel humor is very strange, and sort of feels like, you know, jumping on the bandwagon of people. This is the thing people are mad about now, so I'm going to be mad about it too. Because here's the thing: is, like, that quippy dialogue style is, like, it's really bad when it's done poorly, but it can be done well. And, like, that is the reason, like, Joss Whedon's stuff really landed because he was usually pretty good at balancing it without getting too annoying. With some, you know, some exceptions. I think everyone hates Xander now, but like, other than Xander, I think most people agree that Buffy was a pretty good show. I think Firefly holds up, and of course, like, Avengers holds up, despite that one awful joke that I mentioned. Yeah. But it's definitely, like, the other aspect is this sort of self-aware element to this type of humor that I think is best exemplified with the... God, what was that? That Square Enix game that wasn't good. Of like, did I just move that with my freaking mind? That sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm not saying that kind of writing isn't bad and shouldn't be criticized. Like, that is a big reason I didn't bother with that game. The other reason is I played the demo and thought it kind of played like ass. So, I forgot what that game's name even was. It was something very generic sounding. But it's like I think a big thing people are sick of is that self-aware, snarky, what am I looking for? It's not earnest. People want earnesty and not sarcasm. And I think self-aware comedy, especially in like genre fiction, there's kind of this people have started to lean on it too much. Okay, here's a good joke, a good example of this dynamic that I'm talking about. Everyone is sick of, like, one of the Marvel jokes that we actually do see a lot, that I do agree is overdone, is the old, like, acknowledging, like, oh, I'm Ant-Man. It's like, oh, really? Ant-Man? That's a silly name. Like, they always kind of do this thing where it's... like, they'll acknowledge the character's name is silly, or the costume is silly, or something like that. Like, something within universe that we expect from superhero movies. They'll be like, oh, that's silly. And then usually it's just like one line, that's silly, and then they move on. Like, it is definitely an nope, that's not it. It's definitely an overdone joke now. There we go. But I do understand why it came about. Let's see. Oh, okay. Because audiences weren't always willing to accept, like, Guardians of the Galaxy. And, you know, we especially, like, fans of superheroes and stuff, we will criticize the like, when X-Men came out, the original, like, the Fox X-Men movies, And, like, you know, it was... We were kind of frustrated that the characters didn't wear the costumes. They wore black leather, and they even, like lampshaded... Is it lampshading? I don't know. But they acknowledged that, like, oh, yeah, what do you expect? Yellow leather? Or is it blue leather? They were blue and yellow. I forgot what the line was. Or yellow spandex. Blue spandex. Whatever. But yeah, like, they're wearing black leather. And that's always been kind of like a key example of this kind of thing, where, like, the movies are kind of seem ashamed of the source material. And, you know, it's something I agree with the criticism, but I also do feel like there was it was a process to get from like, if they had put out X-Men and they were wearing their comic accurate costumes, I do think there was some reasonable concern from Fox that people wouldn't accept that, because, like, Batman and Robin had come out a few years earlier, and it was, like, too colorful, too silly. There was this like audiences showed that they kind of associated that kind of very bright and colorful superhero costume stuff with, like, I don't know, children's stuff. For understandable reasons, because, like, as much as, you know, we all like superheroes and we all like when these stories are taken seriously, they were stories created originally for children. Like, you know, we have to understand and acknowledge that. But I think getting from that black leather X-Men costumes to the, you know, something like the very comic accurate looking James Gunn's Superman, that was a process. And it was kind of happened a step at a time. That, you know, if we had jumped straight to the Avengers, I don't know if audiences would have accepted that so readily. But because they started with Iron Man 1, which was sort of grounded, and then they kind of, like, eased people into, like, the sillier stuff. They're like, okay, then we're gonna do the Hulk, and then we're gonna do Thor, but Thor is actually an alien, it's not magic, and then we're gonna do Captain America, and it's like, actually it's just science, but crazy science. But then we get the Avengers, and then we get, like, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then the dam was kind of broken. It's like, oh yeah, we can do pretty much anything in these movies, but I forgot, what was my point? Why did I go off on? Oh, about, like, the self-deprecating humor. So I do feel like part of that was, like, it helped ease audiences into the sillier stuff at first, the self-deprecating humor. Because when Ant-Man shows up, like, everyone was like, Ant-Man, that is a silly concept. So, like, I do think it was fair for Ant-Man to be like, hey, that's a silly name. Because that's what everyone said when they heard Ant-Man. So like the movie kind of acknowledged that. The audience laughs and they say, okay, they know this is kind of silly, so we're just gonna move on. And you know, I like Paul Rudd, so they've got me invested somewhat. So there was a place for that kind of joke, that kind of, is it too late to change the name, or what do you expect, yellow spandex? Like, there was a place for those kinds of jokes that served their purpose in getting audiences used to the idea of seeing the more fantastical elements of superheroes in live action on the big screen. But we're past that, and those jokes don't really work outside of that context. And especially like in a game, there's this really tough thing, like when you're making a game. If you are going to have a character excited about something, let's see, how can I put this? Like, you are playing a game and you're like climbing up a cliff, and then you come over, like you come over the edge of the cliff and you see like a really nice looking vista. And then your character says, like, whoa, wow, that's beautiful. It's kind of like, you know, the Obama giving himself a medal meme. It's the game kind of patting itself on the back, saying like, wow, look at how good these graphics are. And sometimes it's deserved, but like if it doesn't land, it just feels like it really doesn't land. And so that's kind of like an aspect of this, like, oh wow, did I just move that with my mind? It's like, it would make sense for a character to be excited about that, but by having the character say it, it kind of is telling the player, hey, you should be excited about this. And if the player isn't excited about this, because, you know, we've had the gravity gun in Half-Life in, what, like 2004 or whatever, it just really falls flat. But even if it is something impressive, like, you know, there's that clip that really went viral with Vinny Vinesauce, where he's playing Viewfinder, and you know, he takes a picture and it like does the main mechanic of the game. You know, if you know, you know. It's hard. I don't know how to explain it, but then the character, like, over the radio says, "Whoa, did you just warp reality?" And Vinny just immediately pauses the game and navigates to the sound menu. He's never looked at this game's menu before. This is his first time playing the game, but it's like he's done it before. Like, he does it so fast, navigates to the sound menu, and turns off voices. But like, that was a genuinely cool mechanic, but by sticking the... I'm all the way over here. Not sure. That is, I will say real quick, like, one mechanic in this game is that the doors can basically connect to any room to any other room. So I just like teleported all the way across the map, I think. But yeah, having the character like voice that of, wow, isn't that cool? Makes it feels like the game is telling the player what to feel. And that makes it less cool. Like, it is much cooler when the player is able to just feel that themselves. It's like a laugh track. If the show is laughing and you're not laughing, it makes it even less funny than if the joke just doesn't land. It feels like, oh, the show is telling me I'm supposed to be laughing, but I'm not laughing. Like that, it feels like the show is saying, please laugh. Whereas like a show that just like makes a bad joke and then moves on and then gets to the next joke. Like, yeah, sometimes a joke isn't gonna land. I guess bringing this all the way back around to Metroid, it's like, yeah, that guy is probably annoying. I haven't seen exactly what he says. I saw a couple of screenshots that had the subtitles where he was talking, and he had a couple of those kinds of jokes. But from the context, it doesn't seem like his purpose is to reflect what the game wants the player to feel. It seems like his purpose is to be annoying. Like, just the way the character looks is very clearly designed to not be a character you like and respect. Someone said it looks like a racist character of I don't know. Yeah. So I'm gonna let the game cook. If the game does wind up being like, hey, you have this very annoying nerdy guy talking to you the whole game and saying, wow! Yeah, that'll be an issue. But I could also see, like, the purpose of that character being just, like, to show how, I don't know, this normal dork is super impressed by things that are just nothing for Samus. Like, Samus is just completely unfazed. And, you know, Samus is us saying, not saying, but just kind of like, he's going, oh my god, wow, that is so cool, and she is just nonchalant about the whole thing. So, like, the point isn't to make you, the player, go, wow. The point is to make Samus look cooler in comparison. Let's see. Another thought I've had is, so something... The original God of War, the devs said that something they wanted to do was, like, early in the game, have a fairy following Kratos around and, like, giving him advice and doing all the tutorial stuff. and then at the end of the tutorial, like, Kratos gets really mad and just, like, rips the fairy in half. That's something I've, like, just kind of... That's something I occasionally think about. Like, that, would have been a very mid-2000s thing to do. I'm very surprised they didn't do it. And it is... It is very funny in retrospect that they wanted to make a game that, like, they wanted to have a bit to kind of complain about the annoying characters, annoying tutorial characters, when they themselves have become kind of known for doing annoying tutorial characters. Just like in the God of War reboot games, you always have a partner with you, whether it's Atreus or someone else, who kind of says, "Hey, did you see that? Gee, maybe you should throw your axe at that." You're like, well, give me like 30 seconds to look around the room, man. But like, I could see. I don't know if Metroid would do this. I don't know if Retro would do this, but like some case where like we have the intentionally very annoying guy, and then he, for some reason, goes bad, and Samus has to fight him and kill him. I mean, I guess they kind of did that in Corruption with like all of the hunters, and it's like, I think you're supposed to like Rundus because he's cool, and then Gore you find kind of weird. He doesn't really do much, and then Gandrada is like intentionally kind of confrontational, that maybe you like that, but also maybe you just find her very annoying. But again, I don't think they'll like repeat the exact same thing as Corruption. I don't know. Like I said, I'm gonna let them cook. The game comes out next week. I will have an opinion next week. I just generally, when something is announced and there is something that doesn't look great about it, you know, I want to... I try to give creators the benefit of the doubt. And I think I already talked about this. I mean, I definitely talked about when I was talking about, like, you know, the reaction to Metroid Prime when it was announced. I can think of so many more examples. Where the fans were just wrong. Where the fans got very upset about an announcement before the thing came out, and then it came out and they were just wrong. Thinking about like Star Wars, Clone Wars. There was a lot of annoyance, like why are you doing another animated show that kind of overwrites the better looking animated show we already like? And you're introducing an annoying sidekick for Anakin, who, like, it, you know, doesn't fit into the canon. Like, that's weird that she wouldn't ever be mentioned. One, two, three. Like, the Star Wars fans. Oh yeah, and it's like it takes place in the timeline of the Clone Wars. And it's like it takes place during the prequel trilogy, and you know, nobody, I want to say nobody, but a lot of people really didn't like the prequel trilogy. It's like was very, very widely hated. The idea of like, okay, you're doing an animated series and you're giving us more of that, and you're introducing an annoying sidekick. And also, we did like the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars, so why are you doing that? Why isn't it something else? Yeah, so there was, and then even in, like, in the first season when it came out, like, people watched it and complained about it. Like, that would have been a whole thing if it came out today. Like, just the Star Wars discourse has gotten far more toxic. But yeah, then like people gave it a couple seasons, and it's just like, oh, this actually turned out really good. Like some of the best Star Wars stuff we've gotten. But even like within that show, when they announced Maul was returning, there was this, you know, that sounded kind of stupid, and I agreed with that, because it was like, why? I don't like when they bring back characters, unless there's a real good reason to, because it definitely cheapens character deaths. But, you know, then the way it was handled in the show, it was like, oh, this was actually a good decision, because this character is iconic based on the way he looks and his, you know, involvement in the such a good lightsaber fight, but he is just so underdeveloped as a character in the movies. So yeah, bringing him back and developing him further and giving him more to do, like, yeah, we were wrong when they announced that, and we said they shouldn't do that. We were wrong when they announced Clone Wars, and we said they shouldn't do that. We were wrong when, like, they announced Batman the Brave and the Bold, and it's like, oh, they're doing a silly Batman cartoon. No, we want something more like the animated series. Well, that came out, and that was great. It was a, you know, wonderful celebration of kind of like the golden age of Batman, of comics, and DC Comics. We were wrong when, you know, they announced Heath Ledger was going to play the Joker, and people really didn't like that, because, oh, Heath Ledger, he's like a teen heartthrob. I don't know. And sometimes we're right. Like, I don't want to say, like, the the fan reaction is always wrong. Like, when Sony announced they were making a Madam Web movie and everyone's like, really? Like, yeah, we were right to not, to question that. But I think we've been wrong enough that having that kind of gut feeling and getting upset about it, especially, don't get upset about it. If you want to say, that sounds bad, I don't think that's a good idea. That's fair. We can all have predictions, but I think getting upset about it is where you gotta kind of take a step back and be like, okay, but let's reassess our priorities here. A bad movie or a bad game isn't like the end of the world. It's not something you get upset over, even if it does turn out as bad as you fear. Like, I can definitely understand being disappointed. Like, I've talked a lot about how, like, I talked last time about, The Rise of Skywalker, and, like, that movie is a disaster. And I was like, absolutely. I'm gonna say it's a disaster, but I'm not, like, getting heated about it. It's just, like, it is disappointing that there was, like, wasted opportunity. But, whatever. Life goes on. It stinks that this, like, whole saga kind of ends with a big old stinker. Or, like, a case of, like, the final season of Game of Thrones, it kind of retroactively ruins the whole thing. And yeah, and so I can understand being disappointed. There are definitely things I've been disappointed in, but I've realized that it's not worth getting upset about it, like, before it even happens. And then when it does happen, you can just be like, wow, that really sucked. And then just kind of, if you want to be healthy about it, I think it's good to, at least, like, if it was something that you are really excited for, and it comes out and it sucks, maybe you can appreciate some things about it. I think my good example for that is Metroid Other M. Getting back on the Metroid subject, because Metroid Other M is, in my mind, the only bad Metroid game, and it's really bad. It fails at basically everything. It fails, like it's not even a case of here's what I think a Metroid game should be, and it is not that, therefore it's bad, because I am open to different types of Metroid games. I think Fusion is really good, even though that is a very linear game. It's more of a linear action game. I think Hunters is pretty solid, even though that is just like Metroid-themed Unreal Tournament with a repetitive campaign tacked on. But, like, I don't know. There's enough Metroid in there to enjoy, and there's enough, the boomer shooter aspects of that are pretty cool. I talked about how I thought Federation Force was fine. Metroid Prime Pinball is literally a pinball game. It's pretty good too. But other let's see. Which door did I come in? Maybe this one? I think this is the door I came in. Nope. Oh yeah, this room. I think this room's funny because people are gonna be like, oh my god, is this some sort of cult symbol? What did I walk into? It's just the kanji for cow. But yeah, other M just kind of... I could have been interested in a narrative-focused, linear action game type of Metroid. So it's not like... my issues with that game aren't that it isn't what I want. My issues with that game are that it just does everything it tries to do wrong. It is not a good narrative game because the story is bad and poorly told. Poorly. Well, I feel like I mixed up two words there. I guess told and written. Yeah, it was... The story was not good and it was poorly executed. As an action game, it was very mediocre. Like there wasn't... Like there's no depth to the combat. You just wiggle the D-pad around until Samus dodges, and then you get a full charge, and you shoot the enemy, and like it auto aims at them, so it doesn't. There's no challenge there. I don't know. It just... Most of the the most effective way to approach the combat is to just hold the shoot button, wiggle the D-pad around, and then release every time you either get a dodge or get a full charge. And it gets pretty repetitive, and they did like these these cool finishing moves that you can do, and they're not worth doing. Because, like, if you go in to do a finishing move and the enemy isn't actually stunned, well, there is no, like, very clear visual indicator that the enemy is stunned and you can do a finishing move, so you just, like, wind up walking into the enemy and taking damage. So, the combat is a mess. I will say it at least feels good. It is flashy and pressing buttons feels good, and despite the fact that it uses a D-pad for movement in a 3D space, like, it is snappy and responsive, and sometimes, like, there are moments where it's like, okay, that feels good. Pressing the shoot button feels good. Mashing the shoot button, seeing, like, these, especially once your beam is upgraded, and just, like, this giant, like, just this, having this, like, all these giant blasts come out and just destroy enemies, like, that feels good. So it's not completely terrible in every single way. I just think it fails at everything it tries to do. Like it feels good at moments, but like it doesn't come together to be a satisfying game. A satisfying combat system. It is very repetitive. I mean, I'm calling a game repetitive, and I am on like 70,000 buttons in, so like Yeah, okay, I'm throwing my stones in my glass house. But also, this isn't an action game. This is a... I don't know what kind of game this is. Are we streaming? Yeah, we're streaming. Just checking that, like, the stream didn't go down again, like it did yesterday. The story is very famously a disaster in Metroid Other M, and like people, I have seen people defend it and be like, oh no, but you didn't get like the true translations. Like, I don't really care what the, like, it isn't the specific words that are said, it is the entire package that is just very bad. Here's an example, is that there is, you know, it is well known, a very well known terrible moment of that game is when Ridley attacks Samus, and Samus has like a PTSD flashback, and in the cutscene she literally reverts to a child. And freezes. And the discussion around this scene tends to go something like, you know, well, she shouldn't have frozen because she's fought Ridley multiple times. Like, this shouldn't be an issue for her. And on the other side, someone might say, well, no, it does make sense, because it was a PTSD flashback to when Ridley killed her parents as a kid. And I think both of those points, like, have a point. I do think it is very strange for Samus to have, you know, for this to finally be an issue, and then she's like killed this guy like 5 times. Compare it to, you know, her reaction to Kraid in Metroid Dread, where she's like, oh my god, there's a big monster, I need to get ready to fight. And then when she notices it's Kraid, she like literally puts down her guard and is like, oh, it's just you. And it's a very funny contrast to the Ridley scene. But at the same time, it is like, you know, if a game wanted to explore this concept of like PTSD, and yeah, she fought this guy multiple times before, but the PTSD can still flare up, like, I wouldn't be against that. I think that's an interesting angle. Like, I wouldn't be against humanizing Samus in that way. My issue with that isn't that Samus isn't a cool, stoic badass 100% of the time. I, think that actually could be an interesting angle for the character. My issue is it is executed horribly. My issue with that scene that doesn't often come up from other people is the fact that it literally doesn't make sense if you haven't read the Japan-only manga. Because we have never seen in a game Samus's whole backstory. We have never seen a game where K2L gets invaded and Ridley kills her parents. You don't know that if you haven't read the manga or read a summary of it. And the manga was never officially released outside of Japan. and that's I saw a tweet earlier that was like, or a post on Blue Sky that was like saying something like, yeah, we are finding new ways to make extremely inconvenient narrative to reveal extremely inconvenient to reveal important plot points in inconvenient ways. We're pointing to like the Emperor coming back in a Fortnite event and for Star Wars. Yeah, and like an example of that is like very important stuff. Like Samus's whole backstory was told in a manga that was never released in a language other than Japanese. Officially. Like, you can find it very easily online. It's not like, yeah. So like it's out there for you to find it, but and it doesn't matter for any of the other Metroid games. You don't need to know that the space pirates killed Samus's parents and Samus was raised by the Chozo and all of that stuff. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things in any other game. It is a nice little bit of information to have. Like, and you can definitely like get more out of it get more out of like the Prime games when they're talking about the hatchling, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's Samus. And you know, Zero Mission had a little Easter egg at the end where you see like a little drawing of Samus and was it Gray Voice, an old bird. She drew a couple little stick figures. I was like, oh, that's cute. And like, if you didn't know the story from the manga, you would probably be a little confused about that, what that implies. But then, like, if you do know the story, it's like, oh, okay, that's cute. But and then in Metroid Dread, they, like, obviously that is a huge plot point. But I'm pretty sure, okay, it's been a while since I've, like, played through Dread without skipping the cutscenes, but I'm pretty sure they kind of fill you in on that stuff. At least a little bit. But with, you know, that scene in Other M, like, it just straight up doesn't make sense if you don't know. And I do think it's really interesting to contrast that with another time in a game where a cool badass stoic hero had a PTSD flashback to their traumatic childhood and literally turned into a child. And it was one of the best parts of the game. And that's in Batman Arkham Asylum, where you get a Scarecrow sequence where Bruce is like walking down an alleyway, and kind of relives the death of his parents. And that is, like, I think that is fascinating that they included that, because it was like a way to include his origin story without actually having to show his origin story again, because everyone knows Batman's origin story, but despite that, they still found a way to include it. Like, if you somehow play Batman Arkham Asylum and you don't know Batman's origin story, like, they give you enough in there to kind of figure out, like, what this guy's deal is. And then they also have all sorts of, like, text logs and voice logs to flesh out the world and the characters. So if you don't know who Batman is and you just happen to play that game, like, you can still understand what's happening. And that is such an interesting case, because, like, I think it's reasonable to expect someone to know who Batman is. To just be like, this is Batman. We don't need to go over his origin story again. It is reasonable for us to assume you know his origin story, because if you're playing a video game with Batman, you probably have some idea who Batman is. But the fact that the game kind of did the work, like, it didn't completely tell the story again, but it found an interesting way to integrate the origin story, like his origin story, into the game. And I can't, like, I occasionally just kind of think about, like, it would be cool if Metroid Other M had done that. Like, if they found an interesting way to incorporate Samus's origin story into the game, so we could have done the whole PTSD flashback thing. And it could have worked. Like, that could have been a really cool moment. Because I do think if that game had explored, like, what Ridley meant to Samus, what, like, what he did to her and her family, and, like, the feeling that Ridley had after finally killing him for good. That, you know, the horror of seeing, oh no, he's not actually gone, he's back. You know, I defeated my demon, but I didn't actually defeat him, he's back. Like, that could have been effective in a well-executed, narrative-focused game. And Metroid Other M was not a well-executed, narrative-focused game. But yeah, that's kind of what I mean, though. Like, I'm not angry about Metroid Other M being bad. I'm just kind of like, this feels like a missed opportunity. And I'm not mad about it not being what I think a Metroid game should be. I was very willing to give it a chance on its own merits, like, see, like, okay, what is it trying to do? Does it accomplish it? And it didn't accomplish what it was trying to do. And kind of, like, a key example of that is the fact that that scene doesn't work if you haven't read another piece of media that most people haven't read. Like, it was a very great example of, I think, Sakamoto kind of getting, I don't know, like he had the lore in his own head and forgot that other people don't have the lore in their head. Like, this story is much more meaningful to you telling it because, you know, you're the one who has the whole story in your head, but you have to effectively communicate all of that to the audience. And then we kind of get into, I don't know, I don't want to get into all the, like, did we really have to go the whole, like, mother route with Samus? Like, what is with all the mother focus? Like, just because she's a woman and you didn't really know what to do with her, that's real weird. But yeah, I don't know, not gonna, the fact that, like, Samus is, like, tall. Like, like outside of her suit, she's like 6'4" or something. But that game made all of the guys just tower over her. It's like, that's weird. That's weird that all of these guys are like 8 feet tall, apparently. Like we couldn't let Samus be the tall and imposing one. I don't know. I don't want to throw like allegations around or anything. I'm just saying it's weird. I am really interested to see, like, what they do with Sylux, because it feels like he's in this weird place where if you aren't a super big, like, Metroid super fan, you're like, who the hell is Sylux? But if you are a big Metroid super fan, like, they've been hyping this dude up for 20 years. So it's like they have to deliver on that hype. But at the same time, they have to introduce this character to probably most players. So I am very curious, you know, how they're gonna balance that line. It would be, I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be very funny. I would totally be down for this twist if the annoying guy everyone's getting mad at does turn out to be Sylux in disguise, maybe trying to sabotage or annoy Samus. That would be a funny twist. That would be a really funny twist to use with, like an even better twist than Kratos killing the annoying guy, to realize, to have it turn out, oh, the annoying tutorial guy was, like, intentionally being an annoying tutorial guy because he's just a massive hater. That's what I really want to happen. Like, I want Sylux to just be a massive hater. I want him to be like Reverse Flash levels of just petty. Just like, I hate this guy, man. I hate Samus so much. And it's like, I hope it turns, like, the reason he hates Samus turns out to be something real petty. Because at the same time, it could also turn out to, like, be something that's not petty. Because, Samus kind of blows up every planet she goes to. You can very easily be like, oh yeah, this guy is from one of the planets that Samus blew up, and he's not really cool with that. He's kind of mad at her for blowing up this planet. Now, to be fair, she doesn't usually blow up the planet. It's usually, like, the planet's self-destruct sequence, but, like, I don't know. But yeah, I am very curious, like, if they are going to be able to find a way to pay off that character in a satisfying way. Also, I hope they don't, like, kill him off after one game. That is kind of my worry, is that they're just gonna kill him off, and because they kind of... Is this it? Because they kind of did that with Ravenbeak. They introduced, like, a fantastic new, like, arch nemesis for Samus, and then killed him off. And, like, yeah, they could bring him back, but he seemed exceptionally dead. Like, I don't think Metroid works the way like Zelda and Mario do. Like, I don't think it would be good for Metroid to be in a similar case where it's like, oh yeah, we're just gonna, every story is just Samus fighting the same bad guy, because it is. I mean, they did that for a while, and they tried to do that for a while with Ridley, and I think, you know, having Samus fight Ridley every time got repetitive. Okay, this room's pretty annoying. But it would be good to have, like, you know, if we did have Ravenbeak still, like, around in the background doing stuff, and we had, and Sylux continues to be around in the background to be like a thorn in Samus' side if we want, if they want to use that character. Basically what I'm saying is I want Metroid to have, like, a good candidate for another character in the next Smash Brothers. I don't want Zero Suit Samus. Like, I cut Zero Suit Samus. That is such a... That was always a kind of dumb addition. That was just a very, like... I don't know. It always came from, like, the Sakurai bias of just... He doesn't really play Metroid. So he wasn't sure who to add. He wasn't, you know, wasn't in touch with, you know, the Metroid fans. So I don't know. So he just kind of invented a character. I guess I can click these while I'm waiting for that to come back around. I mean, not invented it. I guess he didn't invent the character of Zero Suit Samus, obviously, but, like, he kind of invented everything about her. Because, like, none of it comes from the games except that she has a stun pistol. we talk about like what characters I want in Smash? Sure, I'll ramble about that. So, I want Ravenbeak. I don't think he'll get in since he's like a one-game character, and you know, I just kind of talked about Sakurai doesn't really play Metroid, so I don't think it's gonna happen. I think he would be really cool though. Like, I would be fine not getting Ridley, especially... So for the next Smash, I kind of want... I want it to basically not be a reboot, but just kind of like... We're probably getting a smaller roster. We're probably not getting another Everyone Is Here. So I want them to give all of the characters like the attention they would give a newcomer. So I want them to rework Samus to be, I think, better, more representative of how she is in her games, because she has never been a very good representative beyond kind of superficially some of the aspects. Like she technically has the charge beam and the missiles and stuff, but they don't work like they do in her games, and they especially don't work now. Like, she doesn't feel at all like she feels in the 2D games. Oh, got 3 of them. I would say, like, rework all the characters, rework Samus, rework Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong has always been, like, one of the most baffling characters in Smash Brothers, because he basically had one move that was from his games, and it was the ground slap. And it took him, like, I forgot, was it in Ultimate or Smash 4, he finally got the roll. Like, he does one thing, like, he has one attack in Donkey Kong Country, and there's roll. He does one thing in his original game. Okay, not one attack, and I guess the ground slap is from Donkey Kong Country. And he jumps and he throws barrels. But that's the thing, is like, he does one thing in the original Donkey Kong. He throws barrels. And it just, I guess they tried to adapt that aspect by, like, oh, he can walk while holding barrels, but then it's, I don't know. It's weird that that didn't become a more integral part of his moveset later on. Oh. Like, I always thought his side B, he should just, like, throw a barrel. You might say, well, you know, it wouldn't be good for, like, a heavy grappler character to have a projectile like that. And to that I say, so what? And we had DDD throwing Waddle Dees and Gordos and stuff. Like, I don't know. Yeah, rework Samus, rework Donkey Kong. Like, I would be fine. I would be fine trading Ridley for like my ideal Smash Bros. Roster would have all of them, and would have a ton of Metroid characters, but that's just not, you know, realistic. So, being realistic, I would be fine trading Ridley for Ravenbeak. There we go. What else? Like, if Sidelix winds up being cool, like, I want to be able to root for him for Smash. But, you know, the game isn't out yet. I want Dixie Kong, but I'm, like, worried. I don't know. I think Dixie deserves to be in the game very easily. I think she should have been in years ago. I think it is dumb that, like, the only time she was considered was as a dual character with Diddy. And that would have been cool, but, like, I think she is a notable enough character that she deserves to be in. Just by herself. Because, like, here's the thing, is I think you could make an argument she was one of Nintendo's first popular female heroes. And, you know, I've thought about this a lot. It's like, in the 90s, like, gamers were very sexist. At least, speaking about, like, American young men playing games. I remember there was, like, you know, people didn't want to play as Princess Toadstool in Mario 2 because it was like, oh, you're playing as a girl. Even like Chun-Li in Street Fighter 2, there were like just very immature feelings about that. But in DKC 2, everyone liked Dixie because she was cool. And like, I don't know. I think she definitely should be a higher profile character in Nintendo's roster. I think she is a good character and a cool character and also a significant character. But I don't think Nintendo sees it that way. I do think they do consider her an important character in the Donkey Kong universe. But she is, I think, now, I would say they probably put her behind, obviously DK and Diddy, but I'd also say, like, Cranky and Funky and K. Rool are probably also higher priorities for them. Maybe not necessarily. Well, maybe Funky, because, like, Funky was in Mario Kart, man. And Dixie has been in Mario Kart, but the mobile one that nobody likes. So she hasn't really been in Mario Kart. And then when they did the you know, the pass for the booster pass, they decided to add some characters. They added Dixie, I mean, they added Diddy and Funky, and basically just ported them over from Mario Kart Tour. But they didn't port over Dixie, who, like, you know, you had her model, you had her, like, all the stuff you needed to put her in the game, and you didn't. And that sucks. But I do think they recognize that DKC2 is a like widely beloved game. They recognize that like she is an important character in the DK series. So if they add a fourth Donkey Kong character, I think Dixie has a shot. But I could also see a case of them adding Pauline to represent a fourth Donkey Kong character. But also, you know, the game's going to have a smaller roster, probably. So maybe why didn't I have the camera like this to start with? So, like, you know, they are clearly pushing Donkey Kong as a series to be a bigger deal, but I could, you know, I think it is probably a low chance that Donkey Kong gets 4 characters in the next Smash. And I think if DK keeps 3, and I think it, you know, they'll just keep DK Diddy and K. Rool. But still, like that, I think Dixie is my number one most wanted. One of my most wanted. Probably my number one. I don't know. With the interest that Kirby Air Riders has generated, I think it would be neat to see if they do more Kirby characters. It would be neat to see Gooey or Rick. I don't think that's likely, though. I feel like if there is a 4th Kirby character, it'll be Bandana Waddle Dee. And I disagree with that. But that's probably how it'll be. I don't like Bandana Waddle Dee. I think he doesn't even feel like a character to me. He doesn't even have a name. He's just Bandana Waddle Dee. And I always thought that 4th slot, the 4th player character in Return to Dreamland should have been Gooey or Rick or Adeline. Like, an actual character. Bandana Waddle Dee to me feels like a I missed one. Feels like something on the same level as like Blue Toad and Yellow Toad in the new Super Mario Brothers games. Like, I don't know. That's the same space Bandana Dee occupies in my mind. But I know a lot of people really like Bandana Dee, so he is likely to get into Smash. Because he is kind of the official player 4. But I think having, I don't know, like we saw in Air Riders, there are a lot of characters in the Kirby universe that people really like, and that could work as playable characters in a Smash game. So don't know, maybe with the hype, like Rick is gonna be a bigger part of the series going forward. Like they didn't realize that people really like the hamster. What else? I think most wanted Pokemon to add to Smash is Tinkaton. I think that would be really funny. I love the little strange little pink thing with a giant hammer. It is just a great character archetype. This is why I was looking up. Whatever Pokemon they do, though, like, the one thing I don't want is to just... I don't want them to just default to a legendary or starter from the newest game. That's such a... I don't know. That's such a boring cop-out. Like, I want a Pokemon who is not a legendary, not a starter, and not Gen 1. Like, I think Lucario is a good addition, because, like, Lucario doesn't just represent Gen 4. I feel like Lucario is a very just represents Pokemon in general, and I feel like there aren't many like, most of the Pokemon in Smash represent their specific gen, because they are the starter or the legendary. I don't know. It's a... So it would be interesting to see them, like, forced to choose one that isn't any of those, and I feel like Tinkaton is genuinely a good option, because I think people like that character, and I think she would have, like, an interesting play style as, like, just a chaotic gremlin with a very large hammer. But I think the newest starter, or one of the starters, is pretty much guaranteed. Because the next Pokemon is, I mean, the next Smash is probably a few years out. So like Gen 10 will be well underway. I also imagine the Pokemon Company might have a say in who gets in. I mean, they almost certainly do, because they are technically a separate company from Nintendo. So I imagine they're sort of like, okay, here's the options, which one do you want to put in the game? And those options are usually legendaries or starters, because they want Smash to get people to want to play the new games and engage with the current line. Like the current marketing brand. Okay, is this gonna be it? This one. Ah! Yeah! Okay. That looks cool. I'm over here like, went on a whole thing about like when games tell you they look cool, and I'm over here like playing my own game and saying that looks cool. What? Oh. Ah, stairs. Okay. I think I need to do something about the door transition. What other characters? Like, if I was in charge, the Smash roster would be full of, like, nonsensical characters, weird obscure picks, and Donkey Kong and Metroid. I think put the frog from Excitebots in. I'd be down for that. When the Wii had just come out, I thought it would be funny to just put like one of the trucks from Excite Truck in, and I still think that would be funny. Just like one of the characters is just a truck just zooming around. I think the biggest like if you consider Smash Bros as sort of like a celebration of gaming, as it's become. It's like it was originally just like Nintendo All-Stars, and then it was just anything from Nintendo, whatever. And then it was like Nintendo and like a few key third parties. And now it's just like, yeah, it's just a celebration of gaming. But I do feel like it is a it's missing a lot of Western third-party representation, because it's like basically just Banjo and Steve. And you can say like Diddy and K. Rool and Dark Samus are technically Western characters, but you know, they were from Nintendo franchises. So I would like to see like more Western third parties represented. I feel like the best options are everyone wants a Crash, so that's a good option. And I feel that would definitely like be a huge thing with like, oh, we got Mario, Sonic, and Crash. We got, you know, the 3 consoles, and then like this Banjo's owned by Microsoft. But you know, on that note, it would be cool if they could get Master Chief. You know, they have worked with Microsoft with, you know, Banjo and Steve. So like just getting Master Chief in, that would be cool. I mean, I think if they could get Chief and Doomslayer, like people would complain about, oh, you're getting 2 green guys with guns. It's like, we have like 37 blue guys with swords, man. Like, we can do a few guys with guns. think Doom and Halo are both big enough that they deserve to be represented, I think. I mean, Doom is one of the most influential games, period. And Halo was kind of a key point, just kind of a whole shift in the industry. Like Halo defined Microsoft, and Halo was where, you know, like what Microsoft's success was entirely built on. What the Xbox's success was entirely built on, rather. Like, you know, Microsoft obviously has more going on. So I do think Halo is important enough, and I think Doom and Halo have enough, like, interesting weapons to create a Smash character, so that they don't just feel like a shooty McShoot guy. Like, there are very distinct Halo and Doom weapons, and I don't know. You could definitely communicate the Halo and Doom vibes through their characters, and what else? Everyone wants Rayman. Here's kind of my controversial take. I think the internet has kind of inflated Rayman's significance. Because, like, in his first many years, it was like, okay, the first Rayman was a kind of okay platformer, but not great. It was just okay. It wasn't very notable. Rayman 2 was great. But then, like, Rayman 3 was just fine, and then the series went to the Rabbids for a bit. And then we got, like, Origins and Legends, which were, everyone else likes them. For me, there's just something off about the feel. The jump doesn't feel right. So I could never love those games like everyone else does. But, like, you know, those are well received, so. I mean, I think the main thing with Rayman is that he was sort of Ubisoft's mascot for a long time, just because they didn't really have another colorful, cartoony guy. Another popular, successful, colorful, cartoony guy, anyway. But at this point, Ubisoft's mascot isn't Rayman, it's the Assassins. Like, if you know, this will, like, be controversial probably for some people, but I think if Ubisoft gets a character in the game, it should be an assassin. And I think they could do, you could choose one assassin. If you choose one assassin, it's Ezio, obviously. But, like, there's been so many assassins, so they could do, like, what they did with, like with Hero, where each costume is a different assassin. And they could either do, like, 4 or 8. Like, 4 and each one has 2 variations, or just do 8. But yeah, there's been so many assassins, like it would, and then there's so many, I think there are a lot of interesting things you could do with that character, you know, especially if you were drawing from throughout the series. Like, how could you implement social stealth into a platform fighter? And maybe there is a move where you can like throw out some coins and some people appear and like run to the coins and create a small crowd that you can stand in, and like you're invisible while you're in that cloud. Not crowd. You're invisible while you're in the crowd. Like I would say base like the moveset mainly off of Ezio, but then like have other characters, and also, you know, be willing to use other abilities from other characters if it provides a more interesting moveset. I think I'm gonna put that like up there, like on the wall, so like when you're looking in that direction you don't see just nothing. I think Scorpion from Mortal Kombat is one of the best picks that almost certainly won't happen. Because Mortal Kombat games like don't even get released in Japan. Like Mortal Kombat has no presence in Japan, as far as I'm aware. Like it is just not a relevant series. I need to drink some water. But I think Mortal Kombat is a significant series. It's a weird case where it's like I don't know. I think people underestimate how big it is. Like it is, I believe, the best-selling fighting game series aside from Smash. Now, of course, we are talking like the numbers of home releases, and I think the numbers of copies sold with home releases, and I think Mortal Kombat has an advantage over a lot of other fighting games because it trying to think how to put this. Like, it didn't really do the okay, so like in the 90s, when we were getting, you know, the home releases of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, every Street Fighter was just another version of Street Fighter 2, which made people less likely to buy them. But then, you know, all the home releases of Mortal Kombat were like, it was Mortal Kombat, and then Mortal Kombat 2, and then 3, and then we did get like 2 versions of 3, but then, like, aside from that, and I guess, you know, there was Trilogy, if you want to count that as a 3rd version of 3. But like, most of the Mortal Kombat games have been, like, home releases first. Not first, but they were thinking about the home releases when they were making the games, and then throughout the, you know, the 2000s, when fighting games sort of weren't very popular anymore. Mortal Kombat was still chugging along with the 3D era. And then, like, after Mortal Kombat 9, it, like, exploded in popularity. And the big thing with Mortal Kombat is that it's very mainstream. But very mainstream in a specifically American way. Because, like, I don't know if it's popular in, like, any other region. But it was, I don't know. It is... It's just always been, like, one of the big gaming rivalries. If you were a kid in the 90s, it's like we had Mario and Sonic. And, like, I think just behind that, we had Mario and Sonic, we had Link and Cloud, and, so like Mario, Sonic, and Crash. We had Link and Cloud. We had Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And like later on, I feel like a big rivalry was like Metroid and Halo. So yeah, it would be cool to like have, because you know we got the Mario and Sonic, we got the Link versus Cloud, we got. It would be cool if we could get Samus, Doomguy, and Master Chief in the same game. It would be cool if we could get Ryu versus Scorpion. So I think Scorpion would be a really good pick. And with Scorpion especially, like it's easy to do like a T-rated version of Scorpion. Like people say, oh, you can't do Mortal Kombat because it's too violent. It's like you can do a T-rated version of Scorpion. It's fine. He has swords. He has like fire, and he has his get over here. It's like there are already characters doing all of those things in Smash. Like if Link can grab people with his hook shot, you can do Scorpion's iconic move. We've got 562 sword characters in the game already. Like we can have a guy with swords. Like you could make Scorpion work fine. And you could like reference you could probably do a fun reference to like the fatalities with his final smash. Like have a cutscene thing where it goes da-da-dun, finish him, and then he kind of takes off his mask and it's a skull and he blows fire, but you know, without the blood and stuff. Like after it finishes, the other character just kind of launches off screen. Like that would be a perfect final smash. Other than that, like he just kind of works perfectly. I think the one thing that would be hard to make work in a platform fighter is his teleport attack. I'm not sure how that would work, and that's like one of his signature attacks. But other than that, it's like he comes from a fighting game. It would be very easy to make him work in Smash, and he has been already in some T-rated games. So like you can make a T-rated version of Scorpion. It's just the case is just, would Nintendo want to do that? And I don't think it's necessarily a case of like, oh, they don't want to represent a very violent and dark M-rated game in Smash Brothers. because they've done that. We have Snake, and we have Bayonetta, and we have, like, I mean, I feel like Doom definitely has a good chance. So I don't think that's the issue. I think the real issue is just that Nintendo is a Japanese company, and they don't consider Mortal Kombat a high priority because it has no presence in Japan. It is almost exclusively an American thing, and Nintendo is a global company. So, yeah. I do think, like, I bet Ed Boon would probably be cool with it. Like, I bet he'd be down for it. Like, I bet if Nintendo asked, they would be like, hell yeah. Nintendo would be like, you can't say hell yeah in a business meeting. That's very disrespectful. And then we wouldn't get Scorpion. I don't know if that would actually happen. They're probably not actually like that. It is just funny to imagine this very, like, a very edgy NetherRealm kind of having business meetings with Nintendo. I don't know. But on the other hand, like, I mean, Mortal Kombat was a notable part of Nintendo's history. Like, getting Mortal Kombat on the SNES with the blood. I don't know. Like, in Mortal Kombat 1, it was a big part against Nintendo. Like it was a significant part of the whole 16-bit console war. So it is a relevant game. What other third-party characters could be in Smash? I mean, I don't really care about him myself, but the Dragonborn from Skyrim. Like, Skyrim was a very big game. I don't really care about it, but I think that would be a good choice. Lara Croft could be a good choice, but, like, I don't really know what's going on with that series right now. Alright. Yeah. I'll get closer. I am surprised with this game. I haven't encountered one room yet where I messed up. Because it's like twice when I've showed it off. Somebody was like, I am going to sit down and complete a room. And then they chose a room where I had messed up and placed a button out of reach, and they weren't able to finish the room, and I was like, oh no. And that is a big reason I'm doing this, because I don't want that to happen. So it was like, they just happened to catch the two instances where I screwed up. That is very interesting. It is... I'm not sure if it's fortunate or unfortunate. Let's see. What am I at? Okay, I've been streaming for, oh wow, 2.5 hours. Yapping about Metroid and Smash Bros. And stuff. finish this room and then call it. This room might take a while. I think this room has, like, more buttons than usual. So we're gonna do, like, a whole paragraph of Lorem Ipsum. I could have done a little less, but... The big thing with the next Smash is I hope they surprise me. So I feel like with every Smash, they kind of have a character where you're like, oh, I didn't even think that was an option, and then it just like broadens the scope of predictions, and it feels like as the scope gets bigger, the harder it is to surprise us. Like I feel like in Smash Ultimate, there were some exciting picks, but I don't know how surprising any of them were. The most surprising one was Piranha Plant. And yeah, and it's not that none of the others were surprising, but it was like, that is a character who was on the table, who a lot of people like knew was on the table, and a lot of people predicted and wanted and thought had a decent chance to get in. Like, you know, K. Rool and it's Sora. Or, you know, apparently people wanted Sora for some reason, so that's why they put the character in the game, and a lot of people were surprised because, like, the Disney stuff, they didn't think they'd be able to get it. But they did. But even that, it was like everyone knew that, like there was a hurdle, but it was a character everyone wanted, and everyone knew, like, was a possibility. So I'm saying is, like, I want a character like the first time we got a third-party character, to just like when we got Snake, and it just kind of like, oh, third-party characters are a possibility. Like when we got Piranha Plant, it's like, oh, you could just do some random stuff. Or when we got like Mr. Game & Watch, and it was like, oh, you can just like do a really weird, obscure thing, like basically invent a character to represent something. Like just something very surprising that sort of changes the paradigm of what we could even predict. And this isn't quite that, but like, I feel like one of the most, okay. There are two kind of things they could do that would expand the possibilities in a surprising way, I think. One is if they could get Sony first-party characters. But even that, I feel, is not entirely off the table at this point. Like, we've gotten Microsoft characters. It feels not unlikely that we'll get more. And you know, we've seen Sony branching out with more and more multi-platform stuff. And we've gotten, like, PlayStation first-party games on the Switch. So, we've gotten PlayStation first-party games on PC. So I don't think the possibility of getting a Sony character is zero. I think the bigger question is, like, who would be the best option, because I think it's really between Kratos and Astro. Because Kratos definitely has, like, the time and legacy on his side, but Astro would fit much better into Smash. Astro, I think, also kind of comes with the possibility of, like, using him to represent PlayStation as a whole. Like, I could imagine one possibility is, like, you know, you get the typical Smash reveal trailer, and then Kratos' axe busts through the wall, and, like, freezes something, or freezes a character, and, like, the God of War music starts playing, and then through the dust a character walks through, and you can see the beard, but then the dust clears, and it's actually Astro dressed up as Kratos. Like, I could see the reveal trailer being, you know, playing like that. And then it could be a, like, you could do a couple of things with Astro. You could, like, have him either transform into different PlayStation characters to do his special moves, or just have, like, all of his costumes are him dressed up as different PlayStation characters. But then you kind of have this case of, like, okay, but does Nintendo want to use their big thing to advertise another another console? So, I don't know. The other thing that would, like, wildly change the paradigm of, like, who is even a potential option is Goku. I don't think this will ever happen. I do, like, throughout the history of Smash, we have had these kinds of, okay, here is a rule. Like, it has to be a Nintendo character, and then, like, that rule is broken. It's like, okay, it can be a third-party character, but it has to be related to Nintendo. Like, they wouldn't put Cloud because he's much more associated with PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII at that point hadn't even been on a Nintendo console. And no, but then we got Cloud, and it's like, okay, well, no M-rated games, no, we got Bayonetta. So it's like we keep having these, you know, people come up with, like, there are rules for which characters are allowed in Smash, and then Sakurai just kind of goes, nope. That's actually not a rule. I'm allowed to do whatever I want. But I do think one line that will never be crossed is characters who aren't from video games. But it is interesting to think about, like, the possibilities, you know, like, characters who aren't from video games, but who have had a strong legacy in video games. Like, who would fit that definition? Like imagine, you know, characters who aren't from video games, but if they were from video games, their game history might justify their inclusion in Smash. Like, they've been in enough games and had enough of an impact in the gaming space. And the first one that comes to mind, I think, is Batman. Because just the Arkham games were very influential. Spider-Man is also a good option. I mean, if you look at both the Marvel vs. Capcom games and like the Insomniac Spider-Man games, like and countless other Spider-Man games. The Spider-Man 2 movie game was a very influential and, like, just very exciting game when it came out. Like, oh, you can do that. You can make a game where, like, an open world game where you just swing around like a superhero. Goku, kind of. Like, Goku's been in a lot of games, but most of them aren't very good. But he is a popular character who has been in a lot of games. I mean, Darth Vader would be interesting. There have been a lot of Star Wars games. I think Geralt or Johnny Silverhand, like, The Witcher and Cyberpunk have both kind of taken gotten much more popular in games that have both gotten much more popular thanks to their games. And they're both kind of in a place where it's like, if they weren't licensed games, I would think they were decent possibilities for licensing. They're technically licensed games. If they weren't, like, based on an IP from outside games, I would say that they were decent candidates for representation in Smash, but you know, if we remove that limitation, like, maybe. I mean, they wouldn't be my personal go-to. I don't know. I tried playing The Witcher 1, and I thought it was awful. And then I tried playing The Witcher 2, and I thought it was awful. And I tried playing The Witcher 3, and I thought it was awful. and I tried playing Cyberpunk, and I didn't really like it, so not my cup of tea, but I am aware that they are very popular games. But it's definitely a case where, like, I don't think Smash is ever going to break that seal, that barrier, and do non-gaming characters, even if they are, like, significant to games. But yeah, I guess that's kind of my top most wanted Smash characters. Like in terms of first party, it would be Dixie Kong and Tinkaton and Gooey or Rick. Is there a Mario character I particularly want? I don't know. I think Waluigi would be funny, but I think it's kind of funnier that he's not playable. I think Pauline would be cool, but I do kind of worry that if we got Pauline, she would kind of be under the Donkey Kong banner and get included instead of Dixie, so I'm kind of hesitant to include Pauline. Put the cow. Put the cow from Mario Kart in. Everyone loves cow. Yeah, but, so Dixie, Tinkaton, Gooey, and or Rick. There's a Zelda character I really want. Not really. And then on the third party front, I would say my most wanted are Crash, Doom Guy, Master Chief, and Ezio, maybe? In terms of, like, realistic possibilities. Another possibility from Ubisoft is like the Prince of Persia, because like that has been a significant and influential and well-received game series. I would say that the original Prince of Persia and the Sands of Time are two like very significant and influential games in the history of gaming in ways that you might not even realize. I mean, I've talked about this at length, probably, you know, not in this series, but I've rambled about it before. Maybe I'll ramble about it next time, but, like, Sands of Time is just, like, a hugely influential game. And then the original Prince of Persia basically created an entire subgenre of platformers. Like cinematic platformers is what they're typically called. You got games like Flashback and Oddworld and Out of This World. And then that genre kind of evolved into like the Tomb Raider series. Like Tomb Raider was just like 3D classic Prince of Persia. And then, like, in the modern day, I would say that modern-ish. I mean, I would say that games like Limbo and Inside and Little Nightmares are like kind of the modern interpretation of cinematic platformers. You can kind of trace from Little Nightmares back to Prince of Persia pretty easily. And then Sands of Time just like kind of established a whole bunch of things that have become pretty standard in like modern AAA games. And also it's just like a great game. And you know, the newest Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, like, was fantastic. I guess it's not the newest one, because there is the Rogue Prince of Persia. But, like, The Lost Crown was fantastic. Yeah, I think in Smash, like, you could do the Prince as a character, and I think he would deserve a spot, and I think you could do some interesting stuff with him, especially if you, like, make the Sands of Time Prince the main one, and then, like, other princes could be different costumes, but they're all just called the Prince. You got the classic Prince, you've got the Nolan North Prince, and you've got the newest one. I forgot what is his name in the game. He has an actual name, but you could still call him the Prince. I think the like time rewinding could be an interesting mechanic. It would definitely require some balancing and figuring out how to get it to exactly work, but it could be an interesting recovery move if you like if you get smashed, you can hit like down B and or like I don't know, he has a resource maybe, and he has to collect sand, or he collects sand as he damages enemies. And if you hit down B, you rewind. And so his recovery move is that if he gets hit, he goes flying, he hits down B and rewinds. And maybe you can even activate this even if the blast zone has appeared. Or like the blast, like if he has gotten KO'd, you can still hit down B to rewind back to the stage, but of course that's dangerous because it just gives your opponent another chance to kill you. I don't know, that could be an interesting mechanic. Other than that, you can just be like acrobatic swordsman. Maybe they could take stuff from Lost Crown. He has a lot more abilities than the Lost Crown. I don't know. But I do think if we get a Prince, I mean, if we do get a Ubisoft character, I feel like it is almost certainly either Rayman or an assassin. And I kind of made it clear where I stand on that. I definitely prefer the assassin. I don't think Rayman is significant enough or brings enough to the table. It's like I like Rayman. I don't hate Rayman, but he is a character who has had a few good games, and not like a gaming icon to me. Alright. And let's call it here. Right. Alright. 82,000, 12 hours. Almost halfway, I guess. Well, that's, yeah. Let's go in this room, kind of, just to save for next time. All right.